Hello guys, Dan here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the last episode where we are going to use this Vallejo paint set to paint this Shasvastii model using the colors inside the set and following the guide by Angel Giraldes. So far we did all of these paint set for all the remaining factions, so this will be the last one unless they made some new ones, but I don't know is there any else of these paint sets on the market from the different brands. If there is, please let me know. I would like to give them a look and try. So without further ado, let's start. Black armor. Thin layers of black are applied with brush or with an airbrush to prime the miniature. Okay, this is a very simple step, so just the priming, so I will do this quickly and then I will get back to you so we can start with the painting. I primed this with an airbrush and I wanted to achieve that everything is covered in black. Step 2. With a mixture of 70% black and 30% ivory, the first highlights are applied to the armor. The mixture can be applied by brush or an airbrush. As we can see, they start highlighting the highest areas of these armor panels, so let's do it. For the whole this process, I will use my wet palette, so every single of these paints will be added on the wet palette and mixed with little water, so they have a good flow. So in the future, when you see me going there in the left corner, I'm actually going to the wet palette and taking the paints. So I made the mixtures as they said in the guide, and then I'm going around the model and I'm painting like all the raised areas that are mostly exposed to the lights with this paint. I won't go inside the recesses, I will just start lightly highlighting it. So this will be a really large surface areas, like maybe 70 to 80% of the previous black. But leave the black in the areas that are under, that are in the recesses, that they are in the shadows. So just leave them black, so you will have already one layer of the highlights. Step 3. More ivory is added to the previous mixture. The more highlights are applied in the same areas as the previous steps, although reducing the area to be highlighted. The color ivory can be applied by brush or an airbrush. As we can see here on the pictures, they did this with the airbrush, but I will do it with the brush. Here you can see it on my wet palette, my mixtures and the tones of these paints that I got with mixing. So I'm going to do exactly what they said in the guide. So I will apply this mix on the raised areas that I did in the previous step. So I will continue the same highlight, but I will cover the last area. Step 4. Ivory is added again to continue with the highlights of the armor, this time focusing on the upper areas on the figure. As you can see, they made the light coming from the top, so like on the head, on the knees, the thighs and on the shoulders. So I'm going to try to achieve the same thing with the brush. I made the mixture as they said, so I added a little more ivory to make the color a little more brighter, and now I will start focusing on those higher areas only and adding the highlights there on the most raised area. The thing that I will do is that I will try to cover much less area than I did with the previous color in the previous step, so that I have a really nice gradient of the paint coming from the black to dark gray, then to medium gray, and now we have this light gray tone. Step 5. With a detail brush, the ridges of the armor are outlined with the ivory to achieve a greater definition of each plate. Also, more extreme highlights are added in certain areas to provide the armor with a shiny finish. So as we can see here, they did the edge highlight and then they tried to make a non-metallic metals effect on some parts. So let me try to do something very similar. This time I have a pure ivory on my brush, and then I will focus on the most extreme and erase the points of the light that will fall from above to the model, and there I will put like a little brighter highlight, and then on everything else around this model I will do the edge highlight as they said in this guide. So I will try to use edge of my brush whenever is that possible, making like a 45-degree to 90-degree angle and trying to pull the side of the brush very lightly to draw the straight lines. Just make sure that you have enough paint on your brush, so if you use all the paints and you see that you pull your brush and nothing is leaving behind it, just add a little more paint and then do a few more brush strokes, and then go all around the model and highlight every single edge. I think this is what they did here, as I can see in the pictures, so I will try to do the same. I need to say here that this process requires a lot of patience, because there is a lot of surfaces that you need to cover, but the more of these things that you do now, the model will look better. So just take your time, go slowly around and highlight everything. Step 6. Lastly, with black, we apply shadows with washes throughout the armor, so that is achieved. So they want us here to enhance the shadows, so I will make a black wash and then I will apply it inside the recesses and inside of the lower areas that are not exposed to the light anymore. And what they want us as well to do is to tie up all these transitions that you have. So if you go with a dark black wash over it, so they will unify and it will be more smoother. Just be careful here, we are not going over the top areas and areas that are already highlighted. So this time we are going over the dark areas, inside the recesses, the areas that are under his arms, under his legs, so the ones that are actually not exposed to the light. And this will conclude this part of the guide. So guys, you can see now how the model looks after these steps, and I have to say that it really looks good, taking consideration that this is done with only two paints, the black and the ivory. And so you can see what you can achieve like with layering those paints in the proper way. Step 7. That flash is applied as base color, and it is recommended to apply the color in thin layers so that the details are not obscured. As we can see here, they only painted head with this paint. So this is a very simple step. I will just apply this paint in the few layers, as they said, because if you go only one layer over black, it wouldn't have a good coverage, so you will be able still to see the black under it. But after waiting it to completely dry and then go over it a second time, and on some places the third time, I got the same level of coverage that they showed in the picture. Step 8. Washes are applied all over the skin with royal purple to provide greater definition of all the parts. As we can see here, this is another very simple step, so they just want us to wash the whole skull. So you can see the dilution that I made for my wash. So I think it was like 3 drops of water in 1 drop of the paint, and I just went around the skull and carefully washed everything. Step 9. Next, that flash is used to cover those areas that show an excess of wash. So what they actually want us to do here is to do the little cleanup, so to go all over again, but this time don't paint the recesses on his skull, so just paint the raised flat surfaces on the head. Step 10. Highlights are applied to the skin by adding small quantities of basic skin tone to that flash. A detailed brush should be used for this, since the areas are very small. As you can see here on this picture, they want us to do the highlights now on the face. So I will do as suggested. Just take the small brush that I have and try to highlight like the sharpest areas on the head, like the forehead, the areas around the eyes, the nose, chin areas, some parts of his jaw. So this is actually a really small highlight. There is not that much to do here, so it's going pretty fast actually. Step 11. Finally, with the color Ivory, the last highlights are added to further define the face. This is the smallest and the final highlight on the face, so I did this as like really few thin lines and very few like dots, just on the most raised areas of the jaw, of the nose, of the eyes, just very little one, because it's more or less already done with all the previous highlights and shades that we did. So just make it like little pop a little more with this highlight, and that's it, the head will be done. Step 12. Red armor. Several layers of basic skin tone are applied in order to achieve a more vivid red. The application of the lighter color first, before the red, provides that effect. So as we can see, we need to paint now all the skin, same as we did with the skull. So I will apply basic skin tone in a couple of very thin layers, because after the first layer you will still be able to see the black under it. So after I waited for the paint to completely dry, I went over again. So I repeated the same process 3 times until I was satisfied with the tone of the skin tone that I achieved. Because as they said in the previous step, the lighter this color is, the next red that we apply over it, it will be more rich in the color and it won't look that desaturated as it can look while you paint it over the black surface or over the dark surface. Step 13. Several washes are applied with black red until the previous color has been fully covered. This trick enables an easier application of red, the next color. As you can see here, they just washed everything. So I will do as they suggested. I will apply a few layers of washes, but I will wait for the first layer to completely dry before I apply a second layer. And I think I repeated the same process 3 times to try to achieve the same coverage as they have on this picture, because as you can see on this picture it's really looking red, and the first layer that I'm applying here, it's looking like really transparent. So this is how my model looks after 3 layers of washes. As you can see, it's not matching the one on the photo, but it is close enough. Step 14. Several washes are applied with Gory Red to give more intensity to the previous red. A layer of wash should be applied and allowed to dry before applying the next layer. So I did exactly what they said here. I made a little wash from the Gory Red, and then I went in the 3 very thin layers, so actually very thin washes, and covered everything. So I managed to achieve the same tone of the skin as they provided in the pictures. As you can see here, I will show you how the model looks like when the wash is still wet, and then after the wash has been dried. So you can actually see that it became a little darker, but this is the look that I wanted to achieve. 15. A mixture of 70% Gory Red and 30% Sunny Skin Tone is applied on the upper areas of the armor. So in this step they want us to start highlighting the model. So I made the mixture as they said here. So I added a little Sunny Skin Tone to the Gory Red, and I started to highlight the most raised part of these armors. Only thing is here that you need to be very careful not to go inside the recesses, because these panels are super small, so I suggest to pick up your smallest brush when doing this. You can use the large one as I'm using it here if you are good at handling it and if you are very precise, but I would suggest a smaller one. So this will be like a medium highlight, so try to cover the raised areas but leave the one that are under still with that Gory Red wash. Step 16. A touch of basic skin tone is added to further illuminate the armor and achieve a greater definition. So this will be done as the final highlight on this armor. So I applied this only on the most raised areas of these muscles as little dots. So I just kept going all over and putting little dots at the tops. Step 17. Freehand. Basic skin tone is applied to paint the armor freehand, and it is recommended to use a very fine brush in order to better control the strokes. I will paint a few of these freehand symbols same as they show it on the pictures. So only thing is that I had to do this in 2 very thin coats to be able to achieve the good coverage of this paint, because with the first coat I could see a little red under it, so I had to do it one more time, but after that it really looked good. Step 18. Tones. The weapon is painted with the same process as the black armor. Glazes are applied to the cannon of the weapon with Gory Red. Slightly light glazes are applied on the feet. So as we can see here, they just did everything same as when they are doing the black armor. So actually I will just going fast forward, put this on little speed and do this same as I did before, because I don't think that it requires that many explanations, because everything is the same. Just in this case, when we are going to paint the weapon, we are going to use the side of the brush in the most of the cases to do the edge highlight. And for the end, I will apply that glaze of the Gory Red that they say. So I will use just very thin layers, only one coat, just to achieve this red tint on the top of the weapon. And with this detail, this model is done. I will transfer him to the base that I made before. If you're interested how I did that base, I will include the link to that video in the description down below, and as well it will be timestamps down and all the paints that are included in this video. And let's recap this video. So first, to answer my question, yes, this was the best paint set for the Infinity from the Vallejo, because you can use this to paint the whole Shasvastii army. You will maybe need to add one color, or I don't think even that you have to add one color for some of the rest models. I think that you'll be able to paint the whole army with only this set. So this was the best one, including the explanations, including the final results, the paints provided. So everything went smoothly, everything was well written. So thumbs up for this one, I can highly recommend it. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It will help this channel grow, and it will help me a lot to be able to make more of these videos in the future. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the section down below, and I will do my best to reply. This is all for now, guys. Stay safe, take care, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.